Hello and welcome to the first Brotherhood 100 podcast. In this podcast series, we will be talking to black men, with black men, about issues concerning black men and boys. So I'm your host, Jacob Bannerman, and today I'm very lucky to be joined by two amazing guests. So first, I have my Brotherhood colleague, entrepreneur, mentor, playwright, and a leading light in the national poetry community. Let's give some love to Mr. Ryan Dre Sinclair. Yes, sir. You got a round of applause. 100 podcast. Right. Second, we've got somebody that I've known, for a long time, 5 years now. Amazingly diligent, talented, creative, multifaceted. One of the top photographers in the country. Yes, I said it, Mr. Jonathan Williams.
It's not a lie.
It's not a lie. He's owning it. Clap for yourself. You're damn right. Okay. So, in this podcast, as we mentioned, we talk about issues relating to black men, black boys, to shine a bit of light on what it's like growing up for us in our communities, but also for young people to share that knowledge, to share that information. And we're going to talk about topics that are relevant to us and to the people in and around us. But we're also going to talk about and hear about the backgrounds of our amazing guests. So the first topic, just because I felt it's so relevant, so current, and something that everybody's, has experienced and is a big emotional day, is the GCSE results that just come back. So some of the boys that we mentor, they've just had their GCSE results back. So I just want to talk about what that moment's like and kind of some of the days, weeks, and months after getting those results, how it impacted your life and going from there. So, Jonathan, if I start with you, if I can take you back a few years ago, a few years back, to when results day, GCSE results day for you. So how did it go? What was it like?
So that was, to this day, it's probably one of the most nerve-wracking days I've ever had because I was completely unsure about a lot of my results, what they'd even be like. Because I was really good at art and design, photography and media, I had a good idea about what grades I thought I got. So I ended up getting 2 A's and a B in those subjects. But maths, English, science, anything like really academic, I was just like, listen, it's up for debate, anything could happen here. And I remember it just being, I remember the bus ride to school, it was like, Jesus, like if I don't know what
everything slows down.
Everything slows down. I'm like, this is the last bus ride I'm gonna take to school. This is the last time I'm probably gonna see all of these people. Last time I'm gonna see my teachers. And I remember just walking down the pathway to the gates and I'm seeing my friends and other people open their results and they're like, yeah, I got an A in maths and I got a B in IT, and they're telling me their results and everyone's done so well, because it's usually the kids that do well actually show up. The ones that the ones that don't, the ones that don't, they've either been sent back, to Africa or a homeland or like they're just at home just being like, there's no point. So it's usually like the kids that know that they've done a good job. And I remember seeing everyone else do so well and almost wanting to have that same feeling. Like, I pray that I am as excited as them. And, I've got good results. And I remember opening them up and passing absolutely everything apart from maths. Okay. I remember I got a D in maths. But I remember looking at science and realising, wow, I got a B. Just me not being confident in a lot of the academic subjects, being surprised that I did so well, seeing that I got a C in English, seeing that I got a A in English literature, which I was amazed by. And just knowing that I could go home and show my mum the results and her being proud of that, because my sister, I love her to bits, but she didn't get the best GCSE results. My brother got decent GCSE results, but being a few years apart from them, 8 or 9 years, and I'm able to go back to my mum and be sure. I had more resources and I've done, as good a job as my brother and my sister was an amazing feeling. And I remember it was more of that excitement. Like everyone was like, "Yeah, let's go to the park. Let's have a kickabout." I'm like, "No, I'm going home." My mum, like, I'm showing out I'm able to go sixth form and do A levels. That was like a big moment for me.
Yeah, man. Ryan, what about you?
Well, it's been a long time since my GCSEs, first of all. But I remember the anxiety the night before. So me and a few of my close school friends, we all went to one of my friends' houses, and we just stayed up till like 1, 2 in the morning, anticipating, what I wonder what you got, what did you get, etc. Similar to yourself, when I got my results, I was very much in a rush to get home. I wanted to show my mum. I think I did okay. I can't remember them all, to be fair, it's been a while. Maths, I think I got a B. Surprisingly, in English, which I'd say was my strongest subject, I think I got a C and a B. And what was really interesting, my teacher, who's no longer here, passed away a couple of years ago, she was an advocate for me going up in a higher set. So I was in, I think, set 4 out of 6. But I always knew that I should have been in a higher set. And I don't know what's the term when you restricted, like the lower papers. So they were trying to put me on a lower paper. Not because of ability. I think it was just, I guess the school was just trying to block me from my potential. Eventually, me and my mum complained, put me in a higher set. I think it was set 2 or 3. And that's when I encountered Miss Heaven was her name.
Wow.
Wow. Interesting. It's crazy. And funny enough, she had her first name's the same as my mum's. So Thelma. So both Jamaican. So she was advocating for me. Obviously I went further into literature. I went to uni and then into the arts in the Midlands. But I think GCSEs, I was very nervous. I knew there was going to be a couple of things I weren't going to do well on, so like food technology, kind of checked out a long time before. I could cook a little bit, but you
weren't plugged in, you weren't.
I was practical, not theory, and I was. It wasn't enough, and I knew that there were certain things that were more of a priority in terms of maths, English, science, because I wanted to get to college, sixth form, and go on to uni. But it was, looking back, it was a lot of anxiety leading up to it, thinking, what am I going to do if I don't pass this? Like, is my life going to crash? And I'm like, 16, man. Like,
it seems so small now, innit? Like, comparatively.
And I think interesting as well, when I was coming through college, I had a friend. I don't think she even passed maths at the time, but she still went on to uni, and she's, her career is great. I think she might have retook it at some point, but that really was a lesson for me in terms of, and obviously GCSEs are important, but if you don't pass at the first test, doesn't mean that your life is gonna come crashing down.
Definitely.
And I think it's quite like an ethos for life. Like, you don't have to be an A-star student and everything to get to that next stage.
Definitely, man. Like, I remember me with my ones, I was different to you guys. I knew there was some bad I knew there was some bad news coming. And you just think like, I hope it might happen, but those days were just like just big sigh, because it's like, I'm hoping something might work here, but I know, because I wasn't, for reasons I won't go into, I didn't dedicate myself as much as I could have during my time at school. I was never out of top set, but I just didn't apply myself as much as I could have. And I remember I'll never forget my results. I'm older than you guys, but I'll never forget that day. I got there and I got 6 C's. I passed everything that I needed to, but I didn't pass anything that I didn't need to. Everything that I didn't need to. The one that killed me, you guys know my background, sport and whatever. The one that killed me is I got a D in PE, I got a D in PE because I just didn't do the coursework. Somehow I thought my practical was just gonna drag me through, get me through to that pass. But Nah, I couldn't even do that. And just to say onto your point, I went on following that to have a career in sport with, you know, an elite football club for over a decade. So you know, it does go to show, man. It's like your application after, it helps, don't get me wrong, but you know, just having the other things in place and the family support and being diligent and being passionate about what you're about is so important. So important. So after like results day, because I remember you lot went home. I went home and I cried, bro. I cried my eyes out. I was like, not even no B, nothing, no A, no nothing. I cried my eyes out. But what was like your family like? What were your friends like?
I think me and my friends, we compared. We had, I'd say, most of us had similar kind of results. Family, I think they were proud, but it wasn't as big of a deal as it was to me.
Yeah.
It was more like, you know, well done, like, okay. That, and we just kept it moving from there.
Yeah.
I don't know what would have happened if I got, you know, all like D and above, below, sorry, but yeah, I probably worked. I think the pressure at school had really took a toll on me. I was like,
Yeah.
I have to pass this. I knew there was a couple that I would pass, but there was some, I think PE being one, I was like, I don't even know like if I'm going to do it. But yeah, surprisingly looking back, there wasn't as much emphasis on the GCSEs as I had put on myself and from education.
Yes, man. Because when you're in school, it just feels like that's
Everything.
it. It's everything. That's it. Like your teachers are on you. All your lessons just are finished. Do these exams and get through there. What about you? What was it like after?
After, like, when I got home?
Yeah.
My mum was ecstatic. She was really pleased with what I managed to accomplish. But I think with me, I kind of didn't necessarily care about the English and the maths, like getting relatively low grades in that, like a C and a B. I think for me, because I always knew I was going to go
C and B. You know?
Like, I wasn't really that focused on it because I knew like I'd end up taking the creative path.
Yeah.
And everyone, a lot of people in my school and my family they had bigger expectations for art and design and photography. So because everyone in my school knew me as an illustrator and a photographer, and my art teacher, like, we got along so well, and he taught my brother 8 years prior to me, there was a lot of expectation that I would perform well in those subjects. So I remember even like leading up to my exams in like English and maths and stuff like that, I was not that worried about it. So like I would spend more time working on my art and design coursework than I would studying for maths. And people being like some people understood. It was like half and half. Like, some people understood it. They was like, okay, John is gonna go down the creative path, so he has to make sure he prioritizes, you know, art, design, and photography. But then some people were like, well, he's so good at it. Why is he not focused? Like, he's focus. He should focus more on maths because that isn't his that's not his strong subject. But I remember just going home and showing my mum that, like, the A in art, and showing my brother, and then being like, okay, there you go. Like, like that was the battleground.
Put it on the table.
Just put it. That was all I did. I just whipped it out. I was like, there you go. Like,
Job done.
There you go. I'm an artist now. Like, I think, and that was the moment when I realized that I could be an artist and I could pursue a career within like the creative industry, because before then, everyone just knew me as an artist, but I didn't really have the qualifications to say I could do this. And I think when I got, you know, that, like, I guess like the stamp of approval almost, and, you know, attaining the highest grade I could get in it, it was like, okay, like, I'm an artist. Like, this makes sense. Like, it's in my lineage. Like, my brother, as I said, my brother was an artist. My uncle was a graphic designer. My dad was a musician, plays piano. Like, was a painter growing up. So it was almost like destined that it was gonna happen. And I always knew that I could just retake maths at sixth form. So it wasn't too much of, like, I wasn't stressing about that too much. And you know, I think if everyone saw me as this brilliant mathematician and then I failed that, I'd be a bit more distraught about it. But I think because everyone was like, no, you're the artist, like, you are the creative one, that that was just what my focus was in, essentially.
Cool. So everything panned out.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've heard a little bit about GCSE results and that experience. So now we're gonna tap into some of the great experience to my left and to my right. And we're gonna talk a little bit about coming up as a young black creative in the Midlands. So both of you are within the creative sector, but in slightly different areas. So like coming up from those GCSE results, Ryan, you mentioned you went to university. So like, tell us a bit about that journey, because you moved out of Birmingham to study, right? So tell us a bit about that journey and coming back to your city and starting to make waves.
Yeah, so I moved to Manchester when I was 19. I always wanted to get out of the city. I wanted to new experiences. At the time, I was always into writing, but I hadn't really performed or shared any kind of poetry with anyone besides like my mum. But as I was saying earlier, I'd wanted to get to university. I thought that was the crescendo. Everyone in my family hadn't really been. Obviously, I'd gone through sixth form and college. Well, I left sixth form and I went to college. Aced college, and I was like, well, you know, uni, and then, you know, after that, like life's good. Simple as that. Literally 3 years, and I'm up. You know, great career. So the experience was difficult at times. Moving away, I think the first week or two was like, wow, I'm in this foreign land. I've never really come out of Birmingham. I'm in another big city.
Money's busy
in
as
Manchester,
well,
it's busy. There's people from everywhere. I'm just hearing noise 24/7. I'm not used to this. Trying to sleep. People are making music. I'm like, what the hell is going on? I'm thinking about where do I go for shopping? How can I cook? Like I'd learnt a bit from my mum, but I'm like, you know,
gotta make it work.
I'm like, the heating, like it's a bit cold up here now. So I've got all these things going on, and I'm trying to fit in to a new environment. So I'd say those, especially the first couple of years, I wasn't really writing. I was very much trying to, you know, stay on the student kind of path. I was considering moving abroad. I did do Camp America, so I had different experiences in those first couple of years. The third year, I was getting tired.
Hold on, rewind. Camp America?
Yeah.
I feel like everyone's done this. Like, everyone I know has done Camp America.
I didn't know you did Camp America.
Yeah, I did. I went to New Hampshire for 9 weeks.
Me, man.
Yeah, I was in the trenches. There was no internet. There was like literally the size of this table was the internet space, and we was in a whole cabins. All male camp. I didn't even know what I was walking into. There's creatures everywhere. I'm living like an animal. It was, and the kids were like bad kids as well. So I was like, okay, so now I'm here with bad kids in a place doesn't feel safe. But it was character building. That was 2015. So then I came back, finished I think I went to my second or third year of uni. But my third year, I was like, I think I started to lose that kind of connection with uni. The further I went into it, the more I was like, you know, this ain't really working for me. I still pursued, especially the first few years, trying to get into the sporting industry. So my degree was in sports management. So I was interested in football and sports anyway, but I was trying to look at the business side of it, and as the time went on, I was like, this ain't really as fun as watching sport or playing. So, the experience shaped me. Came back in 2017 to Birmingham. I met with a fellow poet at the time, and he'd written a book, self-published, and we just met up at, I think, Waterstones. And I was like, all right, cool. How do you do that? I want to do that. And I'd say pretty much once I got back, I didn't plan to move back. Once I got back, I was like, all right, I'm going to get onto this writing stuff. And then, things just carried on from there.
And like for you, it's had the photography thing, because I remember we've talked about like when you've kind of first picked up a camera, and it's mad how the people around you can influence that journey so much. So with you and first picking up a camera, how did that go?
So I first picked up a camera in secondary school. It was around the time of my GCSEs. So it's a funny story actually. So I solely wanted to focus on art and design. That was my thing. But my art and design teacher started the photography course, and he would be my photography teacher. And because we got along so well, and he had so much faith in me, more than any teacher at the time did, he kind of put two and two together and thought, okay, if you're good at art, probably going to be good at photography, you should give it a try. And we were like the guinea pig year, because it was newly introduced, never done before, so they just wanted to see if it was even going to work. So I was like, okay, why not? I'll give it a try. Trying to pick as much creative subjects as possible, and just know that I'm more likely going to thrive in those kind of subjects than anything else. And we were using these, like, if you're watching Mr. Daniels, I'm sorry, but we're using these terrible, low budget cameras that was
those
so
plastic ones that I feel like they're from Toys R Us.
It was so, like, they weren't full frame. It wasn't full frame. It wasn't, medium format. It's nothing that a professional photographer would use. It was very much like you could get it just like on Argos, or like a very like basic low end camera. We didn't have any lens. There was no zoom lenses, telephoto lenses. It was literally like the kit lens. So I didn't know how to change a camera lens until I got to university, which is a whole 3 or 4 years, after secondary school. So did GCSE photography, ended up getting a grade A in it, which was amazing somehow. Because I look back at that work now and I'm like, it's not the one.
It's different, isn't it, when you look back?
Yeah, definitely. And I went to a sixth form that didn't really push the creative subjects at all. They wasn't really interested in the arts. It was very much like academia. But initially I wanted to be a journalist. That was like the route that I wanted to get into.
Photojournalist or just journalism? Just journalism.
Okay. I wanted to get into journalism, if not that, psychology. Okay. So I wanted to study psychology at sixth form, but because I didn't pass my GCSE maths, it essentially, it was like everything was in blocks. So it was like, if you didn't pass this, you couldn't do that. And they were like, okay, so you can't do psychology, but what you can do is philosophy and ethics. So I was like, okay, it's kind of similar. Like, I got a grade B in religious studies, so it's like, it's basically the same thing. It's not basically the same thing. It is not. Psychology has you thinking over time, like the most craziest subjects. You're learning about Plato, Aristotle, all of these guys have really deep philosophical views on the world, and it was just interesting. It was really, really crazy. So by the time I got to university, I essentially had forgotten all the photography that I'd learned in secondary school. And we had this thing in my university called Highs and Loans, where you could rent out a camera for free, as long as it was free and as long as you were doing your coursework with it. So because I was doing like a few journalism classes, I'd need to take photos for the articles. So then I was like, okay, cool, pick up a camera. And then as soon as I picked it up, I was like,
it's home.
It was home. It was just like I had to relearn everything that I'd forgotten about in secondary school, but it felt so natural, and it felt so like, it was almost like, like when you rediscover a passion or like a good TV show or a song, and it's like you get that feeling of like, it's like nostalgia. It's like something happens where you're just like, this is...
You can just relax.
Yeah, exactly.
It was nice,
And because I was just going through a lot in like my first and second year, just with life and family stuff, like photography was an escape, and it was the thing that allowed me to just like almost step outside my current situation and just, be creative. And by the time I had graduated from university, I'd started making money as a photographer. And then I think the whole journalism thing kind of died down, because I was seeing how the industry actually worked and how a lot of journalists were like, you're quite restricted in terms of, there's a bunch of people like, and it's like a lot of cooks in the kitchen. Like you've got editors, you got sponsorships, you got all of these things, and it was like, it didn't feel like I would have as much control of my career as if if I just did photography essentially. So then my family were like, well, give it a year, see what happens. I think you were like that too. You were just like, just give it some time, and I ended up finding my first client. And then from there, a year later, I found my second like, by the way, these are like full-time clients who are able to put me on somewhat like a retainer and just give me consistent work. And I was like, well, I'm 21, I'm 22, I'll just see what happens. And, you know, if I want to start doing it in the next couple of years, I've got a degree that I can fall back on. And hopefully by then I would have built up a good portfolio.
Yeah,
definitely.
And I guess now I'm in a stage where things are working out.
You're doing all right.
I'm doing all right.
You're doing all right.
I'm doing all right for myself, so yeah.
All right. So I want to have a bit of a conversation between both of you, because both of you have come up within the wider creative sector, like within Birmingham and then more widely the Midlands. So how would you describe the kind of the West Midlands / Birmingham creative bubble?
Me and Rory both have this look on our face. I feel like we're thinking the same thing. What?
Who's gonna say it?
I think it's immensely talented. I think I can mainly speak for the poetry sector. I think when I was really starting out taking it seriously, there wasn't as many opportunities. There weren't as many, especially paid opportunities for poets, which is something that used to like rile me up, because I'd go to nights, I'd perform, I'd see other poets perform, and
I can say it's the same in sport as well.
Opportunities weren't following, or organisations wanted us to come down and not like compensate us, and I was like, something ain't adding up here. Which for me anyway, that led me to create a platform to consistently pay poets. But outside of that, I think where it's at now, I think it's in a healthier place. I had a conversation with a local poet the other day, and we was discussing different poetry scenes, and one thing that he said was he feels that the soul of the poetry scene is in Birmingham compared to other places. So I would say the creative industry is interesting, because naturally when you've got so many creative people, they think different anyway, which can be good or bad. There does seem to be a stronger economy than previous years, but I still think there's a way to go to really having that. I still come across a lot of poets that don't necessarily see it as, okay, I can do this full time, or this is me. Like what you were saying about going into and having regular clients. You know, a lot of poets may not have that luxury to, you know, have regular work, and I think that's maybe the next step to really solidifying the particularly local poetry scene.
I think someone has to do it really well for other people to be able to like almost follow the blueprint and then use it as inspiration to almost go down their path and not recreate what's already been done, but just take inspiration and motivation from it. I think, you know, it's hard to, if you've got an idea in your head but no one's done it before, you don't have any examples, it's almost like you're blind in a sense. Like the trials and tribulations to get to where you want to get to is way harder because there's no like role models to almost look at.
And that's one of the great things about Empower, right? Is giving people, so Empower is, I'll let you describe what Empower Poetry is rather than...
It's a platform based around supporting local poets in Birmingham. So we go with 3 Ps of paying, platforming and projecting local talent. So whether that's commissions, headlining shows, working in the schools, it's basically trying to be a hub to push poetry, particularly for local artists, because as I was saying earlier, I didn't see much of that. I used to go to London a lot. I used to go to other cities to perform, see how things were going on there, and I'm like, coming back, as much as I love it here, there just wasn't enough opportunity consistently just for poets. So yeah, that and along with not really seeing resources being spread amongst the poetry community just lit a fire in me to be like, okay, well, you know, why don't I try something? Because I'm already actively involved and I'm passionate. So
who were some of like your influences, like
poetry-wise?
Yeah. If you have any.
I think a lot of my influences in terms of writing and performing.
I guess like past poets, like people that are like, or even current poets. Like, is there anyone that you look up to that you like?
There's a lot of local poets that I grew up around, or when I started out, I saw them and they're still around. I bumped into one the other day actually. Her name's Amira Saleh. Yeah, big inspiration in terms of what she does for Birmingham. There's other poets that I grew up seeing locally that are still actively doing things. There's people like Spaz who came to my school when I was in primary school. He's still going now. Obviously, there's people like Benjamin Zephaniah, the whole world knows. Even some of my current peers now, I say we inspire each other to keep going. They might do something that makes me want to, step my game up and vice versa. But yeah, I would say that's a big inspiration. But going to other places, like when I went to Camp America and another time I went to America, I would explore their scenes. And I was like, oh, okay, like I'm getting a bit of support here. So I've got to really reassess why I don't feel like I can do the same here. So then that made me think, okay, if I can do it over this side of the world, I got to do it locally. So, but I get inspiration from all kinds of writers, to be fair. But in terms of setting the platform up, a little bit from London in terms of seeing what they had going on, the economy. But yeah, just wanting to have something there that wasn't there when I was starting out. So yeah.
That's dope, man. It's an amazing platform. One thing I want to talk about as well is the perception of the rest of the country, of the Midlands, the West Midlands, of Birmingham. And I know, starting up, as a Londoner, I'm not going to act like I'm not, but as a Londoner, like, I know in my own ignorance, it just seems like London's the world, and you just think like everything's there. But when you guys are going to other places, especially starting out, how did you feel like people saw Birmingham, Midlands? How do people see that to you?
Well, when I'd go to London a lot in the early days and I'd tell people I was from Birmingham, the first thing they'd say is like, that's far. They would say like, yeah, that's far. Like, you come all this way for a 3 hour shoot. And I'm like, first off, second off, it's not that far. It's literally an hour and 20 minutes on the train, or a 2 hour drive, which if you split, if you take out 15-minute break, it's not that crazy. I think it was that initial shock of, we've had to come from the city that you're at to come here for an opportunity. And then they would I could see in their heads kind of like thinking like, is there a creative scene down there? What is it like? Why are so many people from outside of London coming to London for these opportunities? And sometimes it would lead to bigger discussions about, okay, what do you feel like can be done in your city to maybe build up the infrastructure and, encourage more of a like thriving creative scene. But then you'd have some people who would just be like, well, that's just the way it is. It's like, London, capital of the UK of art and culture within the country. So that's just the way it has to be. And I think it was like a mix of those two kind of reactions. And even to this day, like when I go down to London for work, because a lot of my biggest clients are there, a lot of my biggest opportunities have come from being in London, I still get the same reaction. And anytime I come back here, I always try and learn what I learned in London and then implement it into Birmingham. So like seeing how the London community work, how everyone's so supportive of each other, how there's always events, how like everyone's very open-minded and willing to just help out the next man and really do what's beneficial for the scene. I try and bring that back with me, because I feel like in Birmingham, just in my opinion, we do have some of us have like a kind of crabs in a barrel mentality that I feel like holds a lot of us back, because we see it as such a small place that like, okay, only a few of us can win, or only a few of us are, destined to do great things. But I always say like, everyone can do well, in my opinion. I think there's a potential for, everyone to thrive and to have the resources that they need to be able to, accomplish their dreams. And I don't want to see too many Birmingham creatives or creatives from outside of London feel the pressure to move to London and, have to struggle financially or have to, leave their friends and family to be able to chase his dream. Like you see it in the
really
movie,
good
or like you see it in these movies, like especially in America, like someone from a small town and then they want to move to New York or LA to become an actor or to become a creative. And we still have that in the UK of people leaving the second biggest city to go to the biggest city, and it makes you think like, okay, this isn't adding up, because like, why is it that in the second biggest city you feel like there's no opportunities and you have to move to this one place? Why are all the resources here? Like, why is everything here? And it just, I don't know, the more and more I get deeper into the creative industry, it just makes me think. And but I just try and just do whatever is best for the creatives in my city, and try to make sure that there's actually a scene here and people can get paid, and you know, they don't feel the pressure. They just don't feel that pressure to pack up and leave, because I just don't.
Yeah.
You know, in this day and age, it still amazes me that people feel the need to do that.
Definitely. And one thing that's like, for me, like working, especially like when I was at the uni, working with you guys, and the time since, one thing that I actually rate is because it's not geographically, but I feel like it's tighter, it's smaller, where London has lots of things, lots of events, lots of support, but I can feel like you got East London creatives are different to South London creatives, like, very much so. Where I feel like Birmingham, although everyone has their flavour, I feel like it's easier to get, in a way, to get people together, because people really want those opportunities and those chances. And I feel like, you know, other cities, you know, Manchester, Liverpool often get looked at if it's outside of London, but I feel like there's so much happening here, and particularly, you know, with brotherhood, like particularly, I always say, like, I feel like Birmingham is like the black capital of the UK. Yeah, like obviously, like the numbers wise, like London there's more, but I feel like here, this is just tighter. It's tighter. And I feel like it reflects when you speak to the people, when you walk around the city. And just to like come to the end of this little section, like for both of you, like what's one thing that you feel like's great about the community and the sector and just being a black creative in the Midlands? Either one of you.
I feel like being from Birmingham has really, it's installed a sense of like humility in me, and it's made me be really down to earth, be really myself, and prioritize just trying to be the best version of myself as possible. Because when I go to London, I see people, and it's London, there's an ego, it's flashy, it's big, it's nightlife, everything's 24/7, like, you know, that's where you go to make your dreams come true, because there's so many opportunities. And I see a lot of London, this is no shade to any London creatives, but I see them have opportunities and not cherish it, and not understand how big of an opportunity it is, and they waste it. Or they feel like, oh, it's cool, I can let this one thing slide because something else will come. Like, like photography, for example, a photographer might think, oh, I cannot do this shoot with Red Bull because there's going to be a next Red Bull event, like next week, or, you know, just whatever it may be. Like,
just want one Red Bull.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, I just want one Red Bull event. I just want one Nike event. I just want one Universal Music event. Like, so they don't cherish it. And I think, you know, anytime I go to London, I'm always just so happy to, I know my worth, of course, but I'm always so happy to be in the room, because it's like, yo, we don't have this where I'm from. Like, this isn't the norm. And when something isn't the norm, you appreciate it more. And when you appreciate things more, you're more humble. And I feel like being in Birmingham has really just, I think it's just made me the person that I am today. And like, anytime I meet people, they're like, you're so humble, you're so like down to earth. And it's like, because if I go to London and then come back with that London attitude, or like that cockiness, or, you know, just I don't know, just that energy, people will just look at me weird in Birmingham. They'll be like, you know what I mean? Like, I was gonna say something mad, but like, you know, like, I can get pressed on that. Like, if I walk around with like a big ego, people will check me and be like, Yeah, you gotta remember where you're from. Not in a bad way.
Yeah.
Not in a way that's like
in a real way, innit?
Yeah, exactly. In a real way, like I couldn't, come down and be like, yeah, I've worked with this, like I'm doing this, blah blah blah. You guys ain't doing nothing. Like even like a lot of creatives, I feel like they put me on a pedestal and they're like, especially in Birmingham too, and they're like, yo, you're my inspiration. Like I wanna do what you're doing, and I'm like, listen, I still have to come. I have to still drive back here every single night. I still have to catch a train back here every single time, and I don't mind it because I feel like if I was there, I wouldn't appreciate it. Maybe I wouldn't appreciate it as much. It keeps me grounded when I'm here.
Definitely.
I think that's the thing. Like being in Birmingham really keeps me grounded, and it reminds me that I'm on a mission, and not to get too ahead of myself, and indulge in too much of the success that I've had. Always just try and keep it moving. Like, okay, if I do a big shoot, that's great, amazing, made a little bit of money, my reputation's gone up, but like what's the next thing? Keep it moving, don't ever think I've made it, because all it takes is one wrong mistake and then my reputation is down the drain. Facts. And I'm starting from day one in a whole other industry. So.
Definitely. And Ryan, what about you? Especially like Birmingham, but you do a lot of work within Sandwell, the Black Country, work with a lot of poets and artists in that region as well. Like, what's one thing that you just love about being in this area?
I think what I love right now is I can kind of, and I mean it in the most humble way, I can kind of do what I want to do. But that's years and years of, as I've said, performing, trying new things, going to different platforms, different cities. Whereas now I think because I've had different experiences and so many knockbacks and breakthroughs, now I can, if I really want to do a project, I don't feel as restricted as maybe 5 years ago. Whether that's, oh, this person won't let me through this door, or there's this gatekeeping, or I don't feel as tight to those barriers as especially before in Power. It was more like, how do I get there, and who do I speak to get there, and how many hours do you need to put in before things become a bit different. So I would say that's what I enjoy the most now, is being able to, I'd say to a degree, see where that time has got me in terms of, because I used to look at where was I? I think I was looking at a role I was doing a few years ago, and I was comparing it to the arts that I was doing. And I was like, this ain't adding up, Like, this is, even though I'm not where I want it to be in the artistic way, it's still, the trajectory is much higher than where I was. And I was like, I've put so much time into this, even before that, outside of the creativity, I put so much time into the education, and I gave that a shot. And then, not that I wouldn't do that again, it's more of when I gave the arts a shot, it just slowly things started moving in the direction I wanted. And I was like, well, why would I pause that now? I need to lean in even more. Harder, So, I guess to wrap it up, just having probably a bit more possibilities than maybe 5 years ago with what I want to do.
Okay, amazing. So that's it. First one, pretty much wrapped up. So just before we finish off, gents, an opportunity for you just to talk about maybe some projects that you're working on, share your socials, where can people find what you're doing, where you're doing it. So Jonathan, I'll start with you.
Yes, you can find me on Instagram at Pharaoh Draws. So it's P-H-A-R-A-O. What should I spell on my Instagram? D-R-A-W-S. Hopefully that just comes up along the screen, like countdown or something. So that's me on all social media platforms, Instagram, TikTok, and then my website, jonathanwilliams.co.uk. So you can see my photography, videography, TikTok content, everything pretty much that I've been doing since, at the age of 17, 18 years old. So all that sort of projects that I'm working on.
Exhibition?
Exhibition, so my debut photography exhibition is still up and running at Grosvenor Road, at the legendary, iconic Grosvenor Road studio. People have to keep on reminding me like that, like it's a pretty iconic space within Birmingham, and I'm like, okay. So that's still up. That'll be up until October. What else? Doing a lot of, aiming to do a lot of community work, because now I feel like I've gotten to a stage where my name and my reputation is kind of built up a bit more, so I might be able to, walk into rooms that I previously couldn't and say, I want to do a workshop, or I want to work with, I don't know, whatever company. And because this year has been really quite, I guess, transformational, if that's the word. Kind of like what you're talking about too, Ryan, like the past 5 years, I've seen the fruits of my labour now because of like the past 5 years of work that I've done. And it kind of came around at a very awkward time because it just happened. Like one day, I was like, okay, there's a billboard, and there's a bus, and there's a debut photography exhibition. And
you can see Jonathan all over Birmingham and the Midlands, of course. Forgot about that.
Yeah. I mean, just in general, like I'd roam the streets. But yeah, like I'm finally being able to see my success and walk into rooms and have a bit of a name, and yeah, hopefully that leads to more opportunities.
Wicked. Ryan, sorry. Where can people find you? Where can people see what you're doing?
My socials are the same on everything, Ryan Dre Sinclair. I'm not going to spell that because that's a lot of letters and words, but hopefully it's on the broadcast. What was the second question?
So yeah, that's just it. Where else can people find you? The website?
Oh yes, website ryandresinclair.com. You can find me on all platforms: Insta, YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, X. X is Twitter. Threads, that's a new one. Can't find me on Snapchat though.
Yeah, got Snapchat.
Nah, I'm checking out of that. Currently, in terms of projects, I'm putting together, probably when this is out, the Empower Poetry Festival, which will be happening early November. Look out for Generations, the theatre play that will be returning most likely early 2025. And yeah, that's me right now. Yeah.
Wicked, man. So that brings us to the end. All right, that's it. So well done, guys. Give you a round of applause. If you want to hear more about the Brotherhood programme, about the project, you can find us on Instagram on @WeAreBrotherhood. And you can also go to poweredbycan.org.uk to see all of the different programmes that we do, including Brotherhood. And that's our time. Haven't thought of the outro yet. Didn't get to the outro. I know the intro, didn't get to the outro.
It's all good. We can just fade it to black.
Yeah.
It's all good.
Yeah, all good. Yeah, think of outro. One thing short.
Should have a slogan.
I know. I think I'm young in this.
Your details.
Oh yeah.
Oh, that's a good point.
Mr. Bannerman.
Will swerve me. I'll do Brotherhood.
Hey, you gotta do your thing.
I don't have socials. I only have LinkedIn. I'm not telling people. Go to my LinkedIn page.
Oh no! Listen, people. Hold on. Jacob is big on LinkedIn. LinkedIn massive. Jacob is the guy. You need connections.
Let's not do that. But what I will say